So today we are going to be seeing how to easily remember which operation to use in trigonometry to find the angle required for the triangle. So right here I have a right angle triangle because I said so, and there's a square there. So if we were trying to find this and we had this and this, then to find that usually you have to use tan because it's the opposite angle and the adjacent angle. So if we list that, it would be tan, opposite angle, adjacent angle, which is TOA. Say we had this, where it's the opposite angle and the hypotenuse, that would be sine, which would be sine opposite hypotenuse. And if we had this, where it's the adjacent side and the hypotenuse, then we would have use cosine. So that'd be cosine adjacent hypotenuse. And usually this is listed as SOH CAH TOA, because if you ever have to use one of these, say we had this exact example here. We have A and B, and we have to find the question mark. Then we have to use cosine, and then it would be cosine -1. And since it's adjacent and then hypotenuse, it would be adjacent over hypotenuse, which is B in this case. And that will give you the question mark here. So you listed in the order it's labeled here. So if you know it's cosine, you can say cosine CAH and spell it out: cosine adjacent hypotenuse, cosine adjacent hypotenuse, and that will give you the angle. If you wanted to do the exact same thing with something like sine, where we have it like this, then, and say these were also numbers like 3 and 6. Let's just pretend there's 3 and 6, and we need to find this angle. So we're trying to find this. Then we know it would be sine, because opposite and hypotenuse, and then -1 because we're trying to find an angle. And then we know it's so OH, opposite then hypotenuse. So it's opposite over hypotenuse, which then would equal the question mark up there again. This also works for TOA. Like if you were doing, pretending this was 4, then you would use, there's no hypotenuse here, which means both of these automatically do not work. That means it is TOA, which would be tan -1. And since it's opposite then adjacent, it'd be opposite over adjacent. So opposite over adjacent. And that would be the question mark again. Say we moved the question mark. So let me redraw this triangle. So say we move the question mark down there. Then that would be come into, and like we have 6, 3 again. So in this example, we're trying to find this, but but instead of adjacent being up here, it's now over here. So we have adjacent and hypotenuse, which would be adjacent. If you want, you can always label them. So if you see a degree, you just label all 3. So this is opposite because it's opposite, adjacent because it's beside, and hypotenuse because it's the hypotenuse. So here's the question mark. And we know we have that is a H. So we have the adjacent hypotenuse, which means cosine -1, adjacent over hypotenuse, which would be the question mark here. Just move the light over. There you go. If you want to see me using these in examples, please click the videos in the description, as I link to all of those where I use it in example of TOA, SOH, and CAH.